Good morning and welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura on this day in the midst of a swirling world when we take time to remember those we have lost. Let us set aside what we need to be present to memory and love this day. I am the Reverend Dana Warsnop, honored to serve this congregation as minister. I am joined by a whole team of folks who have collaborated to bring this service into being. Here is the lineup of our entire tech team. And today, our director is Brian Fortune, assistant director is Kitty Merrill, the magician is Sue Brinkmeyer, and we have tech support, I believe, from Joe Osborne. The on-screen people will introduce ourselves as we go along. One actually quick announcement. The world beyond this church, our church life, is so full. And yes, there is a critical election in just a couple of days. So please do be on the lookout for things to do on election day and beyond. And yet, let us also continue to build our community and connect with one another. A place that you might find some joy and delight and comfort connecting is in our annual auction, which this year is completely online. And we have some information about that.
Hi, everyone. Our annual auction is underway, and we are already over halfway to our $10,000 goal. You can help us get over the finish line over the next week by going to the site charityauction.bid/UUCV, browsing the amazing donations in the catalog, and making your bids. There are items within everyone's price range. We have $10 fixed price items, including a drive-through hot dog and homemade cookies lunch sale, talks on the local bird populations, or an easy-to-understand talk on gravitational waves. There's even a book club on the happiness advantage, something we could all use a little more of right now. Are you looking for more specific spiritual guidance? Put a bid in on a sermon topic of your choice by Reverend Dana, or join in an evening of readings by our own UUCV staff. There are many amazing art pieces by our own members, including 3 different chalices by David Frank, beautiful gourds hand-carved by Rael Burke, stunning jewelry, handmade scarves, quilts and paintings. How about some music lessons? Learn singing from our own Carolyn Bierke, or learn guitar with Brian Buck. No guitar? There's one for sale at our auction. Check out some of the professional services being offered: photo restorations, personal training and wellness sessions, wardrobe alterations, or a private photo shoot with our own Jen Luce. Are you tired of home cooking or takeout? Check out the many delivered meals, pies, and other delights. Or even bid on gift certificates to Wood Ranch or Thai Peru. We even have several wine and spirit items to enjoy. If you need something to do with the family, check out 2 different scavenger hunts available, or gift certificates to Arsenal Comics and Sterling Silver Comics. There's even a family game night with Fidelity. And finally, we have many of the UUCV bookstore items on sale at cost, including t-shirts, hats, and chocolate. There's a lot to choose from, and all it takes to win these amazing items is to go online and bid. If you want to learn more or join in the fun, plan to join us on our last auction happy hour on November 7th at 6:30 p.m. There will be games where you can win auction bucks. The annual service auction is our congregation's largest fundraiser. You can help us reach this year's goal by going online to charityauction.bid/UUCV and placing your bids today. Help the church and get some awesome art, food, and experiences in the process.
And I also suggest that you go online and let's actually blow all the way through the goal that we're more than halfway through. And remember, you'll get emails telling you whether you have a high bid or whether you've been outbid. And so you can keep bidding and protect your items. And though online, it's a little bit like hovering around the tables in the silent auction at the last minute to get what you most want and support this community. It is always so good to be together. Let us enter sacred space. Oops.
I just have to smile. That was my daughter, Kate, telling you all about the auction, and helping her in the background there was my granddaughter, Ada Turner, helping Kate. I am the worship associate, Joe Hutchins. We hope that everyone here has a chalice or a candle to light and something to light it with. The chalice is the symbol of our commitment to one another, of our religion, and of our faith. Let's light our chalices together. We begin our service with these words from our own Jeanette Daniel Whitney for Dia de los Muertos. They were framed and part of the ofrenda built by the congregation last week. May those we remember fondly, friends and loved ones, absent today, but present always, those whose flame burns in our hearts, may they be with us now in spirit, embraced in loving memory. We invite their spirits to join us and draw near in this time of memory, loss, and love. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. I'm Carolyn Bierke, the music director, and I'd like to invite you to join in singing our opening hymn, Gathered Here. We will sing it 2 times through.
Spirit, draw near.
we invite the spirits to draw near this day. This holy day that we mark comes to us from two ancient peoples separated by a wide ocean, and yet both conquered and colonized. Though we do think of Dia de los Muertos as a holiday from Mexico, its roots go thousands of years back to indigenous peoples' traditions in the southern regions of modern Mexico, what is now the state of Oaxaca. It is a legacy of the Mixteco peoples, some of whose great, and some more greats and great grandchildren have come to live now in this part of California. With them, we have learned to celebrate and dance with those who have died, even as we still embrace our sorrow. For as Mexican poet and Nobel laureate Octavio Paz tells us, Mexicans do not fear this very human dance with death. Rather, a Mexican chases after death, mocks it, courts it, hugs it. It is a favorite plaything and most lasting love. The reality of being alive and yet also knowing that we will die has sparked the imagination and the fervor of humans throughout human history, across millennia and across oceans. So those same thousands of years ago, roughly, as the Gaels in Britain celebrated the harvest and prepared for winter, they too felt the presence of death. So much so that they sensed that the veil between the living and dead grew thin, that they once more could commune with the spirits of their ancestors. An idea simultaneously spine-tingling and comforting. These true traditions have blended in a series of conquest and colonization. For first, the ancient Romans conquered the Gaels, and some centuries later, they were also conquered by the Catholic Church. And then still more centuries later, the Spanish Catholics conquered the many indigenous peoples in what we now call Mexico. And though this tradition is old and multi-layered, let us never forget that it comes to us each year from a bitter-sweet combination of ancient spirits that could not be conquered through an indomitable peoples who though physically conquered, kept the spirit alive. These traditions remind us that death is more than an ending, that the people we grieve are still with us in memory and in spirit, that we can celebrate them, keep them close, honor their legacy, offer them gifts. Now we can make our offerings to the ancestors, keeping their memory, their spirits, their wisdom alive and with us. We carry the wisdom of their experience that we now call history. Learning from them, holding them present with us. Last Saturday, an intrepid crew of folks, Jeanette and Jim, Daniel Whitney, Amada and Arturo Perez, created an ofrenda in our church for our church community to begin our commemoration of this thin time of year. Invite our ancestors to be with us, remember them tenderly. We are about to see a photo montage of that day. The photos are by Jimmy Vasquez, and we are serenaded by Artie on the accordion.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fidelity Balmer, and I am the Religious Education Coordinator here for our congregation. Today, I'll be sharing a very special story because it's written by one of our own members, Amada Perez. Amada tells the story of inviting her Nana, her mama's mother, to come live with her family after Tata, her grandfather, passed away. Amada writes of her story that this story is based on my memories of that unforgettable time she spent with us. We laughed, cried, hugged, sang, danced, and shared many stories. Being together made the sadness easier to bear. Please enjoy Nana's Big Surprise, written by Amada Perez and illustrated by Maya Cristina Gonzalez. Mama, Papa, my 5 younger brothers, and I all stood and stared in amazement at what we had built right in our own backyard. Wow, we should open a family business building chicken coops, grilled Sergio, the oldest of my brothers. I hope Nana likes it, I said. Nana had been sad and lonely ever since our grandfather, Tata, died. But in just a week, Nana would arrive by bus all the way from Mexicali. The coop was a special surprise for her. She knew everything about raising chickens. I just knew our coop would make her smile. As we cleaned the house for Nana's arrival, memories of Mexicali spread over us like cozy blankets. I remember Tata selling fruits and vegetables at the mercado, wearing them on his scale that looked like a cradle, I said as we folded laundry. Victor and little Mario wrapped themselves in the clean sheets like ghosts. I remember Nana walking to the mercado every day to give Tata his morning hug and kiss, said Hector. But everything is so different here, worried Raul. Nana might not like it. Finally, the day arrived when we all piled into our old blue station wagon and drove to meet Nana at the bus station. There she is, I cried. Through the bus window, I could see Nana's familiar flowered rebozo. It was strange not seeing Tata next to her. We showered her with hugs and kisses. On our way home, Mario and Victor almost blurted out our surprise. I had to use both hands to cover their mouths when they cried, Nana, Nana, we made you something. It's a chick. Back at home again, we brought Nana to the backyard. Her sad eyes grew huge when she saw the chicken coop. Mis nietecitos, what a beautiful surprise. Can you teach us about chickens? You're the expert, said Sergio. Ay, niños, I don't know that I'm up to such a big job. Please, Nana, please, we chirped. Well, I will if you all help me, she answered. In a sometimes sad, sometimes happy voice, she told us about raising chickens as a little girl and gathering fresh eggs every morning, and about her spicy, chocolatey chicken mole, Tata's favorite. That night, I heard soft sobs coming from Nana's room. Nana sat on the bed with a small photograph of Tata in her hands. What's wrong, Nana? Aren't you happy to be here with us? I asked. Of course, mija. But I miss Tata so much, it still hurts deep in my heart. One by one, my brothers crept quietly into the room. Raul held a fluffy chick up to Nana's cheek. Victor stood on his head and fell over. I brushed Nana's long silver hair, but nothing seemed to make her feel better. Every day we checked for eggs, and every day the nests were empty. Nana seems a little better, I wrote in my diary. But our chicks still won't lay eggs. Maybe we aren't talking to them enough. So I took my books and my diary out to the yard and read to the chicks. I even sang to them. As soon as the sun went down, the chicks ran to their coop and nestled into their wooden crates to go to sleep. Afterwards, Nana met me at the door with a hug. Did the chicks like your stories? I nodded yes. But still no eggs? I shook my head no. One Saturday, while everyone was at the grocery store, Nana and I went out to the coop to check for eggs. As we spread feed around the yard, Nana began to sing. Before long, she was dancing. Nana, dancing. She looped her arms above her head and clacked her heels. That was an old paso doble. Tata loved that dance. Nana took my hands and smiled. Do you want to learn it? Together, we danced for the chicks, who clucked and twirled with us. Mama, Papa, and the boys came home. Nana, you're dancing, you're happy, they shouted. Soon they were dancing and clapping with us. Nana gathered us around her. Just now, I felt like I was dancing with Tata. I felt like inviting him and all the people I love and miss to dance with us. She explained that birth, life, and death are a cycle that every living thing must go through, people as well as chickens. But it's natural to grieve too, she said, and to find comfort in the love of your family. The Nana we had missed so much was back. The next morning, before sunrise, we all woke up to a loud cock-a-doodle-doo. We rushed outside, our eyes and mouths open wide as we cried, oh no, our chicks, they're all roosters. The yard was full of them, flapping and crowing their hearts out. Nana laughed and hugged us close. Well, no wonder our chickens weren't laying any eggs. I thought they looked a little strange, but I've been thinking of Tata so much I didn't notice that none of them were hens. We all laughed until we cried, hiccuped, and had to go to the bathroom. The next day, Nana came into the kitchen holding her photo of Tata. You all have helped me so much during this difficult time, she said. But now Tata needs me to visit him and place fresh flowers on his grave every day. It is finally time for me to return to Mexico. You all made me a wonderful chicken coop. Now will you help me make an altar for Tata to honor him and to let him know how much we love and miss him? Of course, we all shouted. Nana smiled and said, Familia mia, I want you all to know that I will remember this time forever, even after I die. And we all hugged our Nana for a long, long time. Amada writes at the end of her book that our elders are a treasure. The amazing stories they share of their experiences, like raising chickens that turn out to be roosters, enrich our lives like nothing else. Even though it hurts when we lose them, it also reminds us that we are all part of the natural cycle of life and death. Remembering our loved ones with an altar on El Dia de los Muertos, November 2nd, helps us bring their memory back to life.
Thank you, Fidelity, and thank you, Amada, for that wonderful story. Each Sunday, this congregation gives away our collection to an organization in the larger community or to funds that help people in need in our church. We now invite you to donate online, and you will see the link on the next slide, and it'll also be posted in the chat as a direct link. Our offering today goes to the Mixteco Indigena Community Organizing Project, or MICOP, which serves approximately 24,000 Indigenous immigrant farm workers in Ventura County, most of whom come from the very area of Oaxaca, where Dia de los Muertos is celebrated with great fervor and beauty and energy. These immigrants here to our country speak their languages, their indigenous languages, often with little or no English or Spanish. And the challenges they face include inadequate housing and limited access to services like healthcare, housing, and early childhood education. MICOP teaches child development and early education classes for parents. They strive to improve the working conditions as their working conditions as farm workers, educating them on their rights and investigating wage theft. Eulalia came to MICOP for help with her employer. MICOP helped me so much in my work life. I've learned to exercise my rights at work and my family, and I've learned to exercise my rights at work. In my family, I've learned to communicate well with my children. With our support, MICOP can help more families like Eulalia's. Thank you for giving generously, as you always do.
Dicen el negro llorona, negro pero cariñoso. Todos me dicen el negro llorona, negro pero cariñoso. Yo soy como el chile verde, llorona, picante pero sabroso. Yo soy como el chile verde, llorona, picante pero sabroso. Dicen que no tengo duelo, llorona, porque no me ven llorar. Dicen que no tengo duelo, llorona, porque no me ven llorar. Hay muertos que no hacen ruido, llorona, y es más grande su pena. Hay muertos que no hacen ruido, llorona, y es más grande su pena. Ay de mí, llorona, 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 llévame al río. Ay de mí, llorona, 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 llévame al río. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, que ya me muero de frío. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, que ya me muero de frío.
We are ever and always grateful for the generosity of this congregation. We weave the threads of our ancestors with the threads of community partners like Mikop and their ancestors in this tapestry of love we call community. Joanne Knowles, a member of our church, died in September. Joanne is fondly remembered as someone who always had something interesting to say and a real firecracker. She was always welcoming and spirited, which made her a great fit for our membership committee. She will be missed. Joanne's family will have a private service for her sometime in the future, probably when they can get together again. In honor and in remembrance of Joanne Knowles, we light our memorial candle from our chalice flame and extinguish the chalice for a few moments as we remember Joanne in silent reflection. The chalice flame will then be relit and both will be extinguished at the end of the service. Thank you for your presence, your spirit among us, dear Joanne.
Each week, we take time to share some of the great joys and sorrows that touch our lives. You may send your joys or sorrows you wish to share via the Joys and Sorrows form emailed to you each week in the UUCV This Week newsletter. You can also find the form on Joys and Sorrows page at our website at uuventura.org. Those that we receive by 10 p.m. Saturday will be read the following morning. Those received later will be read the next Sunday. We see here the ripples in water to symbolize the way the celebrations and sorrows in our hearts are felt throughout our community. Though the ripples today are virtual, we know that the connections we feel are very real. This week, there were no sorrows or joys that were sent in, but I ask you for a few moments to hold in your hearts the sorrows and joys that have touched your life this past week. I now invite you to take some moments to speak aloud the names of those you wish to celebrate or memorialize, or those in need of the loving embrace of this beloved community. By invoking their names, we include them in the circle of caring that we create. May we be truly grateful for all that is our life.
I invite you to join me in singing Nada de Turbe, first in Spanish and then in English.
Nada te turbe, nada te espante, quien a Dios tiene, nada le falta. Nada te turbe, nada te espante, solo Dios basta. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. Those who seek God shall never go wanting. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. God alone fills us.
We offer a reading in two voices this morning on death by Khalil Gibran, the prophet. This spiritual classic is written as a dialogue between Al-Mitra and the prophet.
Then Al-Mitra spoke, saying, "We would ask now of death." And the prophet said, "You would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owls whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one."
In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling? that he shall wear the mark of the king? Yet is he not more mindful of his trembling?
For what is it to die, but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing, but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered?
Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then you shall truly dance.
I invite you now into a time of quiet and meditation. Take a moment to rest. Take note of your breathing. Let whatever arises, memory, tenderness, sweetness, simply be there. Be here with you now. A silent meditation. Death is more than an ending. Those who have died never really leave us. We carry them in memory, and their lives take new form within us. They are in our very tears that arise at their memory. Death is more than an ending, as anyone who has grieved will attest. We carry our dear ones with us in our grief. And perhaps this is why people often judge themselves as they grieve. People will confess to me, I'm not crying enough, or I'm crying all the time, or somebody told me I should have moved on from this by now. Nope, I tell them, you are grieving in your own way. You are grieving just right. You really can't get this wrong. It is almost impossible to do grieving wrong. And then when my own dear mother died, I hardly cried at all. And I was worried, why am I not crying for my dear mother? Yet I did wander about for days and weeks into months in this just kind of fog. I could not think straight, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I missed appointments and got so confused so easily. Then, of course, it hit me. This is how my grief is showing up. Not with bouts of weeping that I had expected, but entering into what I now call the fog of grief. And my own words came back to me. I wasn't grieving wrong. I was grieving her loss in my own way. I was very thankful that one of my brothers was the executor of that estate, because I'd have made a mess of it. I know. One of the reasons I think also that we judge our own grieving is that in modern America, we often try to distance ourselves from death and dying and grief. We use technology and our tenacity of spirit to insulate ourselves from death. Yet in our determination to keep old age and death at bay, we are missing something profound. As Khalil Gibran's prophet tells us, if you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then you shall truly dance. Our sorrow is actually good. It is our sorrow that keeps the ancestors alive. It keeps alive for us dear ones we have lost in this community in this past year. Our dear ones, Shirley Morton, Marge Lorraine, Joan Alger, Bobby Shanehair, Harold Dale Cartledge, Harriet McNamara, Rael Burke, and Joanne Knowles. It keeps alive, for better and sometimes for worse, those we have lost in the wider world. Actors, Danny Aiello, Kirk Douglas, Carl Reiner, Naya Rivera, Olivia de Havilland, Chadwick Boseman, and of course, just yesterday, Sean Connery. Athletes, some taken far too young, like basketball player Kobe Bryant. Also, Hall of Fame pitchers, baseball pitchers, Tom Seaver, Whitey Ford, and Bob Gibson. More athletes, lesser known, like Ruth Bourne, who played in the All-American Girls Baseball League during and after World War II. Also, Vicki Wood, who raced cars professionally in the 1950s, one of the first women to compete in NASCAR, called the fastest woman alive in her day. Barbara Hillary, an American adventurer who was the first Black woman to reach both the North and the South Pole. or Wilson Roosevelt German, White House butler and staffer from 1957 to 2012. Imagine the stories he had to tell. Also, someone whose legacy we see always. Someone nicknamed Phase 2, who was an American graffiti artist who was credited with inventing bubble lettering in graffiti in the 1970s. We also lost musicians Bill Withers, who wrote Lean on Me, and John Prine, who told us to blow up our TVs. Not bad advice. Throw away your paper, I think he said too, may not be bad advice for us in these days. We lost also Little Richard. And of course, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and so many other Black lives, many whose names we know and so many more whose names we do not. And also 1.2 million people who have died from COVID-19 in just 10 months. And more than 230,000 Americans who have died from COVID-19 in just 10 months. Remembering our ancestors reminds us to cherish one another in our lives, even as we hold on to the memory of those we have lost. We remember too those who are still with us, even as we can't be as close to them as we want to be. As the lyrics in our closing hymn that we will sing in a few moments reminds us, the dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass, the moaning rocks, the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in this crowd. Though we are not crowded, but spread out across many miles. Those who have died have never, never left. They are still with us. This becomes more vividly true for me when I think of scattering the ashes of my parents. It's even easier because they have been scattered to the winds and to the earth and to the oceans. It is easier for me to think of them in the trees and the grass and the wails and smiles of a child. When we are together in the sanctuary on this Sunday each year, we come forward, we light a candle, and we speak the names of those we have lost. This morning, we hold the light in our hearts as we see the faces of our dear ones in another photo montage.
Sat on their park bench like bookend, A newspaper blown through the grass falls on the round toes of the high shoes of the old friends. Old friends, winter companions, the old ones, lost in their overcoats, waiting for the sun. The sounds of the city sifting through trees settles like dust on the shoulders of the old friends. Can you imagine them with us today, sharing a park bench quietly? How often we pause to think of them. Old friends, memory brushes the same years, silently sharing the same fears. Time it was, and what a time it was. It was a time of innocence, a time of confidences. Long ago it must be. I have a photograph. Preserve your memories, they mean so much now. Can you imagine them with us today, sharing a park bench quietly? How often we pause to think of them. Old friends, memory brushes the same years, silently sharing the same fears. Time it was, and what a time it was. It was a time of innocence, a time of confidences. Long ago it must be. I have a photograph. Preserve your memory, they mean so much now.
Please join me now in prayer. Holy beingness, nameless one and mystery beyond all naming, spirit of life and of love, which dwells within and among and beyond us, this day and always. May we feel the spirit of our dear ones, those lost to us in person, those held closely, dearly in memory. May we know that they are with us and that they walk with us. We carry them. They have never really left. Let us use our grief and our love to live well now, knowing this time is all we have, living it well, taking the lessons from their lives, their memories, to live our lives, our precious lives, as fully and deeply, as ethically and as kindly as we can. May we think back on the long legacy, the years, the centuries, the millennia going back of our ancestors, those who lived and whose lives we carry now in us. May we remember the long arc of life. Remember that our lives are a spark in that, making what we do now no less important, but placing it in perspective. May we find an answer to, a comfort in what feels so anxious, what feels so perilous sometimes to us. May we carry the love that created more love and more love and more people and finally us. May we carry it with us into our lives. And may all those who are ill find healing. Those who are in despair find hope. May those who are without shelter find home. And may all those who are suffering conflict in war throughout the world, may we know peace. Amen. Blessed be.
Please join me in our closing hymn, Breaths.
Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Zaza, whoosh, ah, whoosh. Those who have died have never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning wood. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Zaza, whoosh, ah, whoosh. Those who have died have never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Zaza, whoosh, ah, whoosh, zaza.
Please join Reverend Dana in extinguishing your chalice at home. We extinguish the chalice, but not the light in our hearts, the warmth of community, or the renewed purpose we find here together today. we carry those things into our lives until we gather again. Amen.
In a moment, you'll be placed in breakout rooms for a virtual coffee hour. And even if you are new to us, I sincerely invite you in. You can, at that point, join your group or opt out. And then if you want to continue chatting after you've been in one group that is closed, just return to the main room and you'll be put in a new breakout room with more people. And I invite you, if you wish to share the memories of those you have lost and to offer comfort to one another, because that is part of what we do with and for one another in this community. I leave you with these words from Richard Gilbert. We are, therefore we love. We love, therefore we are. May we be humble before the wonder of what we dare to create because of and with this love. May you go forth in love, go forth in peace, go forth in good health, go forth in tender memory. And yes, if you have not already, go forth and vote. May it be so.